One of Hollywood's most prestigious editors, collaborating with director Steven Spielberg for over 40 years and having the most wins in the Academy Awards Best Film Editing. Michael Kahn started off his career with no intentions of becoming an editor, but working in advertising, his skills were quickly noticed and he rose to be one of the major names in the editing industry. The role of an editor is taking different shots of a film and putting them in order, giving the film a narrative. However, this is not the only role of an editor. Modern technology now allows editors to affect a scene in certain ways to make the audience feel how the director wants them to when watching the movie. Therefore, the editor works closely with the director of the movie through all parts of production, from planning the scenes in pre-production all the way through to bringing them to life in post. This can build the relationship between editors and directors as seen from Michael Kahn and Steven Spielberg, their first production together going all the way back to 1977 with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which got Kahn his first award nomination for editing, which he unfortunately lost to the editing team of Star Wars. Nevertheless, this was the start of a long-lived relationship between the two, as Spielberg would go always to Kahn for his editing needs. In an interview, we hear Kahn say that him and Spielberg would sit together before filming and watch the film, decide what they both want, and then Kahn would edit whilst filming is happening, and then watch the film again the next morning before filming is being done. Doing this meant by the time filming had finished, the movie was almost complete, and going over it repeatedly allowed the two to get exactly what they wanted into every scene of the film. Being the right-hand man of Steven Spielberg, we know that Kahn must be good at editing, but it is knowing when not to edit and let a scene play out that can really create some masterpieces. This is a skill that Michael Kahn has perfected and is shown brilliantly in Spielberg's 2012 film Lincoln, about President Lincoln's fight of the Civil War and slavery in America. As this is such a significant point in time, the movie needs to be edited to move the audience, and one scene showed this particularly well, where we see Abraham Lincoln in a meeting, and in the scene Kahn lets each shot play out a lot longer than you usually see in films, which allows what the character is saying to be fully understood by the audience. When the films constantly cut, your focus changes to what you can see in the new scene, meaning you don't process what the character is saying as well. This shows how editing can change the way a scene is interpreted. Another good example of this is the thrilling scene at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan. Now imagine if that scene was just one constant shot of footage of thousands of men running into a beach. Although we would see all of the action because it is not cut up to become disorientated, it would not give the same effect as the original. Cuts allow you to show each little part of what is taking place in a scene, meaning you can show the full story to the audience. Another classic from the duo is Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. This shows us how the use of cutting and editing from Michael builds up the suspense of the movie, as you would expect from an action adventure. The famous scene of Indiana swapping the ancient golden idol with the bag of sand, causing the giant rolling boulder to chase our character. Quite the opposite to Lincoln, we now see the use of quick shots with regular cutting, as the door slowly shuts, almost trapping our protagonist. The use of cuts slowly becoming quicker until the very last second majorly raises the suspense of the scene for the audience, as it is meant to, keeping you constantly on the edge of the seat as you watch. If we look at the famous horror movie editor Alfred Hitchcock and the production Psycho, the obvious shower scene, which gives the same heart-racing effect as the Indiana Jones boulder scene, but the cuts are much slower to start with. A whole minute of film is shown from getting into the shower to the reveal of the killer. The audience is still gripped into the scene as the pace builds up to the stabbing. The famous music in the scene is as important as well. The sound of the shower running is taken over by a piercing ringing which is terrifying by itself, but joining all these features of slowly increasing cuts and footage and spine-chilling music brings the scene together to petrify the audience. Unlike most editors, Michael Kahn sticks to the original form of editing by cutting actual film tape and sticking it back together, rather than using modern-day editing software. However, this is what has got him to where he is today, as Steven Spielberg is also a fan of the original cutting method, and therefore chose to work with. The wonder of computers is that they give you the ability to store hundreds of hours of film and take it anywhere, whereas Michael Kahn has cutting rooms where you have the film laid out on the table, feeding from one roll of film into another. Then they cut the footage hundreds of times till the full movie is edited. They use a technique called a negative cutter to paste with glue the negative into a single film. This takes hundreds of man-hours and a lot of space, however it has given birth to the masterpieces we see from Kahn and Spielberg tag team. Editing on software like Premiere Pro or Movie Maker allows you to organise all your footage cleanly, by creating folders in which you can create subfolders, allowing you to have whatever clip you want from the film tucked away for whenever you need it. Editing is a central part of any production. You can change the whole feel of an entire movie for good or worse. So remember, when editing, to take care of the distance between cuts. If you are in an action scene, fast cuts will get the audience has hearts racing, whereas scenes that require focus should be cut slowly to give the scene a more epic feel. Always fit the music to the pace of the edit as well, as if they are out of sync, the scene can be ruined.